What's up, guys? Our next guitar is going to be a Maple Burl Veneered Strat. I purchased this pack of veneer from veneersupplies.com. It's a bleached maple burl piece, and this was on clearance. There's a couple scratches I've got to clean up later on that I'll show you, but we're going to first size this up onto a swamp ash guitar blank. So I've got my template out, and I'm going to trim the veneer so that it fits. This veneer is really nice. It's nice and flat, and I can just go ahead and glue it on. So what I'm going to do is get this razor blade and size it up on where it needs to be glued. So we'll cut this. This bleached veneer will be really cool once I add some color to it, and I'll show that in video 2. But we'll get this piece all sized up. You can see how beautiful it is. We're going to come back with some Titebond cold press glue, and you cannot use some of the cement tape and stuff like that with this veneer. You have to use the right glue for the right pieces of veneer, and the Titebond cold press glue is the right glue here. So we're going to apply this on pretty thick, and what's great about this glue is that it'll dry fast. It doesn't move much, so you'll get your veneer piece nice and flat. So I'll make sure we got enough glue on the piece, spread it out with a credit card here, make sure I've got every piece covered, and then we are going to take that piece, place it on, and then throw it in my wine press clamp. Do not roll this on, do not do any of that, just throw it into your clamp and go. If you roll it on or roll the veneer on, you'll actually get it to start to warp slightly. So we'll glue both sides on, and then we'll take this over to my bandsaw. This is my Craftsman 10-inch bandsaw with a 1/4-inch blade, and we'll begin to trim this body up so that I am ready to route it. So we'll go ahead and make some relief cuts, cut each piece off, and when you're cutting this, you want to try and cut as close as you can to the template without actually cutting the template. So this saw is great for cutting curves, real easy and quick to work with. We'll make sure we get this as flat as we can to the template without cutting it. And if I do cut the template or whatever, which I've done in the past, I'll just use a little bit of epoxy and patch it up and sand it. Make that turn. We're now ready to take this to my table router. This is a Craftsman table router with a 2-inch bottom bearing bit that I flip over so it's inverted, and I can route the guitar body to shape. One of the tricks when doing this is to go really slow and let the router do the work. Don't force it. You'll get some burn marks. Move at a decent speed. So then we'll bring this back downstairs and grab my DeWalt 621 router, and we'll begin to route out the control cavities and the trem cavities. And like I said before, I've got a bunch of different routers that are set up with different bits to help this move along quickly. This is my router bit with a bushing. I think it's a 3/4 bushing and a 1/2-inch bit, and it's a long bit, so it plunges very good. Gets the depth that I need. So then we'll come back with a top bearing bit here in this router, and we'll route out a little bit around the sides to the exact template size. So we'll then pop off the template, use the same router bit as before, and clean this out to the bottom. Make sure that I've got the right depth all the way to the bottom. What's cool about those templates is it gives me the depth that I need to go to. So that control cavity is 1.5 inches, and then it shows me where I need to punch through. So here we're actually punching through where the trem is going to punch through the body. So I've got my older Porter cable router with a really long bottom bearing bit that punches through. And then the trem cavity is going to be routed at 5/8 step. So we'll go through and route this to the correct depth on the back. And you want to go at about 1/4 inch each pass, so take about 1/4 inch material off. If you go anything more than that, you'll really be fighting your router bit. So then we will route the pickup cavities. And again, this says 1/2 inch, 3/4. I go a little bit deeper. I like to go a little bit deeper. It lightens up the guitar bodies slightly. I don't like really heavy guitar bodies, so this helps just reduce a little bit of weight. We are going to put a pick guard over this, and I'm okay with that because I'm going to do sort of a color contrast with a bird's eye maple neck and a black color. And so with the bleached burl and that contrast in colors, I'm hoping to get a really cool effect. We'll finish it in a satin finish, and that'll help really sort of keep this a low-key with high definition sort of looking guitar body. So we'll come back with my templates to cut the belly and arm off. So I mark that with sort of a downward stroke so I actually know where I'm cutting. You think it's obvious. Sometimes when you set up a tool, you will do it the wrong way. And once you cut, you cannot add back. So I did a video of this process as I was building this guitar. Here I'm just going to show you how I do it. I have a jig that's set up at 17 degrees, and that allows me to do the belly and arm cut off relatively quick and easy. So there's another video here that gives a lot greater detail on how I'm doing this with my different jig and tools. As you get into guitar building and you're starting to build out your tool base, it's nicer to have a bigger bandsaw so that you can resaw your own tops. That's usually one of the more expensive things you'll get into, is the figure of the tops. And so having the Laguna HD saw really helps. With some of the jigs here, I've got that extra height. I can do this relatively quickly. And then I can resaw and do everything else I need. So we'll reset the jig and measure up on the arm cutoff, and then we'll just take this and pass it through and cut off the arm. One of the cool things I liked about the Kevin Bond guitar was the color contrast with the green and the black, and that's what sort of inspired me to do this one. So I will be coloring the arm black. So then next we'll take this outside to my sanding station. This is my custom sanding station, where I've actually got a squirrel cage fan blowing off to the left. It blows all the dust out into the street and into my neighbor's yard. Keeps my area nice and clean. Here I've got the GoPro on so you can see exactly how I'm sanding this. We'll start out with 120 grit, get it nice and level, and then we'll move up to 240 and 320 and get as many scratches off as I can. Swamp ash is very soft, and so it does scratch and does dent. I just want to make sure I've got as much as I can. So now I've got my foam pad. Once I sanded all the sort of cuts out, I've got the foam pad then to sort of level sand it across everything. From there, we're going to put a roundover on the back and the front. I've got a 3/8 roundover bit in my Craftsman fixed router, and we'll just run this on each side slowly, and you can see the wind blowing everything out. We'll then flip this over and do the same thing on this side. These Craftsman routers are actually really nice. I've got a bunch of them now. Good weighting. They fit the Porter cable and some of the other jigs that I have. So it's a good replacement. So the top is a little bit easier than the back, and we're all done. And then we begin sanding. And as I've done a couple bodies as of late, I'm realizing sanding is taking the majority of time for me. So we'll sand the sides, sand the top. Top you got to be a little bit careful with since it's a burl and it's a veneer. When you're sanding down a veneer, you really don't want to take a tool to it. You're going to sand right through and then have a significant problem. Here I'm going pretty slow with a high grit. This is 240. We'll work myself all the way up to 320. And then when I add the color in the next video, you'll see I actually had to pull out a sander, power sander, to sand one of the lines out. But you can also scrape with a razor blade. And last thing we're going to do here then is drill out the neck holes. And you can see I am getting ready to add color to this next. So it's a quick strap build with my templates and all my tools. We will be coloring this up next and getting it all ready to assemble. So moving along and speeding up my build process here a little bit. Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you in the next video.